All right, let's jump into something that honestly is kind of scary to think about these days. We're talking cybersecurity, but specifically in schools. And look, before you think this is all about kids just goofing off online and maybe like messing with the school website, get this. Almost 1,400 schools just in the U.S. publicly reported data breaches just in 2021. Yeah, you heard that right. 2021. And that's just what we know about.
Point.
Exactly. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Like if that many schools felt like, okay, we got to go public with this, imagine how much is like under the surface. So to really dig into this, we're checking out this document. It's called Centripetal Clean Internet K-12 Insights. And it dives into, what are the threats that schools are dealing with? And it is way more serious than I think most people realize. We're talking about stuff like ransomware attacks that can literally shut down entire school systems, data breaches that, expose all sorts of personal student information, even hacktivists using schools as a way to make some kind of political statement.
And we can't forget the financial impact of all this. It's not just about disruption or privacy violations. It's about real money. The report actually mentioned one school district that was hit with a ransom demand for $2 million. Think about that for a second. $2 million.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's money that could have been used for, textbooks, technology, teacher salaries, you name it.
Right, like essential stuff. And one of the things that really stuck out to me in this document is how schools are often seen as easy targets. Like you've got these tight budgets. They can't necessarily invest in all the, super high-tech security measures. Plus, they're dealing with what they call a constant influx of new users, students, a lot of whom, let's face it, they don't always get the whole online safety thing,
It's true. And on top of that, schools are basically sitting on a goldmine of data. Grades, attendance, financial information, even medical histories in some cases. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, they call it a perfect storm, and it's like, yeah, that sounds about right. But I guess my question is, what makes them so vulnerable, like on a technical level? What is it about school networks that makes them, easier to attack?
Well, think about it this way. School networks are designed to be open and accessible, right? So students and staff can connect from pretty much anywhere on all kinds of devices, which is great for learning, but it also creates what we call a large attack surface. More devices, more users, more potential entry points for someone who wants to cause trouble. It's like leaving all the doors and windows of your house wide open.
So you're saying it's not just about, kids forgetting their passwords or clicking on a sketchy link.
Right. We're talking about organized attacks, sophisticated tactics, and the potential consequences are huge. This is serious stuff.
So we've talked about the problems, and it sounds honestly kind of bleak. But this document doesn't just leave us hanging, thankfully. They do offer up a potential solution. It's called CleanINTERNET, and honestly, the way they describe it, it sounds like something straight out of sci-fi. I mean, they use words like intelligence-powered, proactive defense, even shield. Like, where do I sign up, right?
Well, yeah, it is pretty cutting-edge stuff. The idea behind CleanINTERNET is that it's like this high-tech shield constantly threat data from all over the globe. And it's doing this in real time. So the goal is to catch and then block any malicious activity before it can even reach a school's network.
So it's like, what? They have a security guard who can see trouble coming from a mile away and just shuts it down before it even gets close.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Yeah.
The really cool part is that CleanINTERNET relies on, and I'm quoting this directly, uniquely skilled security analysts. So it's not just algorithms and fancy code. There are actual humans involved behind the scenes using their expertise.
So it's like, yeah, they've got that superpowered security guard, but they also have a whole team of expert detectives feeding them intel, making sure that nothing slips through.
Exactly. And I think a huge benefit here is the burden it takes off of IT teams in schools. I mean, these guys are overworked as it is, right? So instead of constantly playing whack-a-mole with every new threat that pops up, they can actually focus on their core responsibilities. Supporting teachers, helping students, just making sure that the tech actually works for what they need it for.
Right, because who needs another tech headache?
Yeah.
Not teachers, that's for sure.
Okay.
But okay, this clean internet-y thing, it sounds, in theory, amazing, but also maybe a little too good to be true. I'm wondering, how does it actually work in practice?
Well, think of it as like a filter. It sits between the school's network and the rest of the internet. So anytime a student or a teacher trying to go to a website or download something, CleanINTERNET is checking it against this massive database. It's full of threat intelligence, right? So let's say it detects something suspicious, could be a known phishing site or a file that's known to contain malware. it just blocks it automatically.
So it's like what, an antivirus, but for the whole school's network?
Basically, yeah. And it's working all the time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, putting one of those invisible force fields around the school's entire network, and then anything bad just like bounces right off.
Right.
But I do have to say, you know what they say? With great power comes great responsibility, right? And this whole idea of clean internet, relying on, and I'm quoting here, the world's largest collection of threat intelligence, it kind of makes me wonder about the privacy side of things.
Yeah.
Especially with all that sensitive student data floating around.
Oh, yeah. You've hit on a really important point there.
Right. Like, how do you balance, keeping things secure, but also respecting people's privacy, especially when we're talking about kids?
Exactly. And I think, honestly, that's something, we haven't seen the fine print, like their data policies, how they store things. But any system like this, dealing with student information, it has to be super transparent, follow all the rules and regulations, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Parents, teachers, students, they all need to be confident that their data is being handled responsibly.
Right. Like ethically, not just legally.
Exactly. And, it goes back to something we were talking about earlier about, even with the best tech, you still need that human element.
Those expert detectives.
Right, exactly. They're the ones who can look at something and go, okay, this seems fishy, but it's actually fine. You know what I mean? It's that judgment call.
Because you don't want to block something that's actually useful for learning.
Exactly.
Because the goal is to make technology work for education, not against it.
100%. And I think that's what makes this whole conversation so important. It's not just about, oh, let's install this cool new software and problem solve.
Right. It's more nuanced than that.
Right. It's about really understanding the threats out there, looking at what these solutions can and can't do, and then, at a bigger level, just creating a culture of awareness.
Yes, 100%. And, we've been focusing on K-12, but this is so much bigger than that, right?
No, huge. Think about universities, all that research they're doing, libraries, they're holding our history, community colleges. A lot of them are online now.
Right. So many people learning in so many ways.
Exactly. And the question is, how do we make sure that everybody has access to a safe and secure online experience no matter where they're learning? It's a challenge, but it's one we've got to figure out.
Couldn't agree more. And, this has been a fascinating deep dive, but it's really just the beginning of the conversation, right? So for everyone listening, if you want to learn more, we've got links to the document, other resources, all that good stuff in the show notes. So yeah, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time on the next deep dive.